For those of you who aren't showing your screen, I gotta tell you, I'm like every other teacher. I do prefer to teach to live people. I would love it if you turn it on. I don't want to force you. I don't know. Maybe you're sitting at home and you didn't do your hair or something. I don't know, but I would love it if you turn them on. Hey, welcome. It feels like you're here all of a sudden. Awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Don't want to force anyone. Don't want to make you feel uncomfortable, but at the same time, it certainly gives me a little bit more energy into what I'm doing. So that's for sure. All right, hopefully this will share up again. There we go. And so essentially, I think it took me about 4 to 6 weeks to create two of these for math, like 2 units. I create one for every unit I teach. It took me about 2 months to create one for math and one for science. And I created two of them over the summer, and I'm like, okay, that'll give me enough leeway, enough time that as I get started in the year that I can keep building them. And so, and then by the end of the pandemic, I built one for every single unit I teach, essentially. And really what it does is it pulls out everything out of my Google Drive so that it's easily accessible to me and easily accessible to my students. Um, Notice my little vernacular there up the top. This is pattern and relations. This is my student version. I needed something where I'm like very quickly I can easily tell the difference between my student version and my teacher version. Um, but but I essentially created the teacher version first, right? And then I put in all my answer keys um, with a link so that, as you can see, even this one, like the textbook answer key, I just make that one available to the students so they could easily use their textbook as formative, like most of it's designed to be. And then I'm essentially building, notice some things like this picture is right out of the textbook. Again, I'm not selling this. I'm just using it for my students, just like I have the textbook in front of them. So I certainly grab some things out of the textbook, and I beg, borrow, and steal online to find things that relate to what they're learning about. And then, this gets you always a topic 3. My students are never surprised when I'm going to give them a quiz or a test because something turns red, right? Right here, for example, in mid-unit review, all my study notes or test preparation assignments, all of that stuff, I just link it right in there from the very beginning. So students can, whenever I start a unit, I give them this right away at the beginning, and then they see the whole entire thing, right? And then a lot of students say to me, Mr. Schellenberg, you saying I could go ahead and do every assignment ahead of time? I say, yep, actually, you can totally do that. Jump right in, do them all. But I won't promise you I'm going to sign them all, right? So you might do them all, and good for you because that's just good learning. Go right ahead. I don't care if you get it done early. You're just handing it in when it's time to mark it. But I'm not promising you that I'm going to do them all, right? I'm only going to do enough of them so that we actually learn the content and move on, right? And I got to tell you, as soon as I say that, they're like, "Oh, I'm not going ahead." They don't want to do more work than they have to, right? For the most part, anyway. So this essentially is Unit 1, and maybe do you guys want me to show you what IXL is, or are you guys familiar with that already? Do you guys want somebody say yes, no, don't care, right? Nobody's shaking their head. I don't know. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. IXL is pretty awesome though. Some teachers don't like it at all, but I'll quickly show it to you. I just link them right in. Um, and this is IXL. The students, it's basically self-marking. It's based on concepts and that they need to know. And they just basically go through it. I will just probably get this question wrong. I'm not reading it. The beauty of it, when they get it wrong, there's an explanation. They should be reading that, figuring out how to do it properly, and then right away got it. And then they move on to the next one. And then, they work through it. And it really, the SMART score, eventually they can work up to be 100. The downside of this, some students really hate this because they don't understand it. So I really teach it, meaning I teach them how to use this properly. Mostly I use it as formative. So every concept I teach, they can self-check themselves and it's self-marking, right? So um, I teach them how to use it, meaning, you don't get 100% on every paper assignment I give you in math, for example. What's a good mark for you? Well, if you're used to getting 60s, well, I think you should aim to get a 70, If you're used to getting 80s, well, then you should aim to get better than an 80. If you're used to getting 90s, well, then feel free to go get 100. I don't necessarily take this as a mark. Sometimes I do, and I tell them when I do. But most of the time I don't, right? But it's available to them. And then secondly, that helps a lot of kids. As soon as they all have to get 100%, that 50% kid, who's running an average 50%, they hate this if they have to get 100. But if they have to get 55, they actually go, well, yeah, great, I can get 55, right? Like, anyway, they'll also, every time they get something wrong, it will drop their SMART score and add questions. And they hate that too. So I tell students that the fastest way to get through IXL is actually to do it slowly. Take your time. You'll have less questions. You'll make less mistakes. You'll get it done faster. So anyway, that's my short little pitch for IXL. All right. Uh, Kyle, just interrupt me. Jump right in. Turn the mic on. Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Is IXL, I just saw on the top banner, it's for you have math and English in there. Can you throw all sorts of subjects in there, or is it just for math and English through that program?
IXL is only math and English.
Okay.
And my school, we only pay for it in math. So we did have it for English, but for whatever reason, I don't teach English. For whatever reason, they didn't really use it. So um, I don't know, not my worry. But anyway, is it good? I can't speak to the English side, right? I can't speak to it, so I don't know. But it is more if you're using math and English. So anyway, so you get the idea. So I kind of went through the whole unit. And when I said the title of my assignment, essentially, if I have projects, I link them in there right away. They can see what the projects are, unit tests. It might not say much, but at least they know a unit test is coming. There should never be a surprise. And then, my title was, how did I Google survive? Well, essentially, I started teaching students how to use this right at the beginning of the year. And so they knew how to use it. When we went online, it was like, no big deal. They just went to my outline and kept going. You know what I mean? And they knew where to find all my assignments, all my notes, all my PowerPoints, all that kind of stuff are all here. So my kids weren't really stressed out. They didn't really lose track of anything. I always try to, either it's me creating a video with myself in it teaching this topic, or I find videos that relate to the very topic online so that they can watch somebody better than me teaching it, if you know what I mean. Um, and so, that's a fair bit of time. But that's okay. I mean, this is not, Rome wasn't built in a day. So you take your time, and as you go, you can, build it as you go, if you know what I mean. So essentially this was math. Even though you notice my little red arrow there pointing at unit 1, I do have all the units now because of creating this through the pandemic. But I'm only going to show them, whatever, as soon as I start a new unit, I'll bring it up to them. So then I did the same thing for science, right? I was doing both units at the same time. So when they go to the science textbook here, same kind of deal. This is now my science classroom. So everything here relates to science. And then this is my unit 1 outline. I use Google Docs to create my outlines just because it was easier. Time was definitely an issue last year. And I found it a lot easier to do this that way, if you know what I mean. Um, make this a little bit larger. And I don't know about you guys, but every year I find new resources and I got frustrated. It's happened to be quite a few years where I end up creating a really good resource or a really good assignment or a really good something. And then goes awesome with the kids, and then the next year comes around, and I forgot about it, right? And I end up not teaching it, and I'm not using it, and I get past that part of my curriculum, and then something triggers in my memory, or maybe I'm digging through Google Drive, and I'm like, oh yeah, what? I didn't do it. What did I, you know what I mean? I was so frustrated so many times where I missed a lesson that I loved. That doesn't happen to me anymore. It's linked into my outline. So essentially, I'm not losing anything anymore. Everything is always there as I want it, right? And organized in that way. My ecosystem news, every time I find something online, you get those emails, you're like, oh, that's really cool. I should share that with my kids. Well, that if I didn't put it somewhere, that would probably last about 5 minutes. I don't know about you guys, but I, think I forget things. Too many things to think about as a teacher all the time. So I'll just link it into my, in this case, this unit is about interactions and ecosystems. So then anything related to ecosystems, I'll just link it in here, and then kids can literally put this in for news. And I always challenge kids too. I'm like, if you guys find something cool, tell me about it, share it with me. And then the beauty of that is I can put it here, and then all the kids in the class can see it. And it just makes that whole process of sharing easier. Okay. And then, I put things like student learning outcomes, all these little things you want to share with kids that, if you're always putting it into Google Classroom, you're like linking. It's so administrative. Oh my goodness, it's driving me insane. I, I, I basically become a secretary for links, and it drives me insane. I'm like, there's so many cool things I share with kids, but you over inundate them. And then they just it goes over their head because they're like, "Stop talking, Mr. Schellenberg, stop talking already." And so I just tell them to explore in here if they're interested, and then all the things that are interesting essentially end up in here. Like student learning outcomes are really powerful for kids if they know it. I share it as a Google Doc, and then they can make copies of it if they want, and then test their learning, that sort of thing, study for tests, all that kind of thing. So anyway, we pay for exam bank and link that in there. They can do a practice exam bank whenever they want. I tell them our password and share it right on my outline. Um, and this is particularly in science. I always have LinkedIn instructional videos, particularly in science. It seems there's in Alberta, we got some pretty amazing teachers out there in Alberta who are creating videos, teaching the content, and in math too, frankly, for that matter. But they're literally teaching our Alberta Ed content and making a video with a PowerPoint on it. And, some of them are better than me. So I link them in here, right? And I have, I think, about 10 students who are away right now. And the beauty of it is, like, I forget what her name is. What is her name here? If I Bonner, I think is her name for this video in particular. Um, she has done a video for every topic in my Science 7 for the entire first unit. And so I can say to my students from home, I just link them right into Google Classroom. And like, I literally just go over here, click on the link and copy the link now. I'm not searching for it. I'm not Google searching. I already have the link. I just copy the link, go to Google Classroom, paste the link in. Boom, 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 boom. It saves me all kinds of time. And I'm not searching anymore. All my links are available. And it just simplifies it. And it organizes it for me so that I don't have to keep it in my head. If you know what I mean. I don't know about how many things I lose. You tell me something and I get busy, I'll forget it. Like I'll forget my wife in the parking lot if a student comes talking to me, like it's horrible. Maybe I just have a bad memory, but point being is I can't trust my memory anymore. There's too many things to remember. And so, I literally assign kids, watch the video, right? If you're working at home, you're going to watch this video. And that way I don't have to make some silly video camera while I'm teaching in the classroom that really isn't that good when I'm really teaching to my class, not to the online. You know what I mean? You can't do both well, in my opinion. So I just send them the videos for the other teacher who did a great job on it. I think there's about 2 or 3 teachers that online that do that for Science 7 anyway. So then everything that's important, notice I kind of I like fonts a lot. I love this font. I use this one all the time. This is Landrina Solid, and it's just a nice font that makes it pop. I think this is Landerinas. I think it's the Shadow right here. I use that one all the time too. Fonts are smaller. If I use GIFs all the time, then the files get so big that they don't work very well. So I try to use fonts wherever I can. But then I also try to just create a system that looks familiar to kids, right? Assignments, all my links are in there for assignments and my notes. Like this is my Google Slides here. Every topic I teach, I have a Google slide for too. Um, but to students, I always share the you know, what do you call it again? Post to the web, I guess. Anyway, so all my topics have a PowerPoint for the kids, that sort of thing, with videos and all that stuff. So, I teach to that. I do chalk and talk sometimes, create good discussion, but all kids can see all of my Google Slides from the very beginning of the unit. They can use them to study for if they want, right? I don't care. Why not? Whatever helps you learn. All right. So, I could talk all day about this, but I don't really want to talk all day. I'd rather teach and then give you time to build. That's what I really care about. Um, you know, this is kind of what it looks like in regards to my whole entire unit, my owl pellet lab, and I just any animation that leads to a better understanding of learning, I kind of beg, steal, borrow online. Again, we can't sell this. I'm only sharing this with my kids, so I don't think it really matters. At least that's how I feel about it. And use animations to draw attention to things without being distracting. I hate animation that's distracting, but when animation makes a really helpful to be able to make things interesting, like the word excellent, for example, I'll show you how to make that simple and easy. And so that's essentially what I did all kind of years. So you kind of get the idea of what I'm doing. Any questions about that at all? Jump in. Thoughts, impressions. Tell me you like it, you hate it, and you want to leave right now, and I'm okay with that. Seriously, I want to use your time wisely. Go ahead, jump in.
Hi.
Hey, Aber.
So I like the idea, and I'm very much into this kind of idea that grab the attention of the kids, and they make them more interested in like try to find their like the resources by like only a click, and see what they need to see and watch it and read it and like learn a lot. So I'm too much into this, and I'm actually I was looking for something like that. The thing is that I use something um like what you're doing, but not that luxurious the way that you're doing it. It just I'm using the slides, like a
Google Slides.
presentation. Yeah,
Right.
the Google Slides to do that. So I noticed that you're using the Google Word more than slides. So what make you choose that platform? Is it like what does it have more than slides that make you choose it? I'm just
Well,
wondering because I never used words for such thing.
okay. I think I understand your question, but understand I am actually using Google Slides. Like what you're looking at right now is a published to the web Google slide. And I'll show you how all of this works. So I use Google Slides extensively. I personally like web pages for their purpose, but I seldom make web pages. I find they're excuse me, they're not as easy to manipulate as a Google slide is. And if the product looks this clean, I couldn't turn this into like a web page into something that looks like this. That would be a ton of work that I'd never want to do. But creating what you see here, I probably did this in about, I don't know, an hour, right? Like this is not a ton of work. I'll just show you how I do it, and it's actually pretty simple. And then you're just building on it over and over again. One more thing I'll show you, and I can't take full credit for this. I use this keep calm and carry on button. And I can't take full credit for this. I actually borrowed this from another teacher out there who was sharing it online, and then I adapted it and made it my own. Okay. I teach a Trinity Christian school, so I call this a prayer room, but really it's a comm room, a digital comm room. And essentially almost everything you see will take you to something. Like the idea is for kids when it's time to do their work, we are Chromebooks one-to-one, by the way. So every kid has a Chromebook in front of them, and they have to have headphones of some kind, earbuds usually. And so if you want to just get your work done and, make everybody go away, if you like fireplaces or fish tanks, for example, you click on it here, and it takes you to, a fish tank, and it's got nice music going on in the background. Can you guys hear that okay? Is it playing? I shared the window. When you're sharing, you have to share it as a tab to hear the sound. I shared it as a window so you could see the buttons I push and whatnot. So ultimately, there's music going on here in the background that's calm and soothing. You know, you click on the fireplace and it takes you to a fireplace, and you got crackling fireplace sounds in the background. So this is also a Google slide with auto starting videos. So you're just technically on a Google slide published to the web, auto starting a video of a fireplace, right? It looks really cool, but it's actually very simple to organize. Even my little birdies here, maybe you like birdies, right? And you got soothing music in the background, and you can watch the birdies eat. Whatever it is, kids love it to just be able to make the world go away, and basically not be disturbed, that sort of thing. So everything here kind of links into something. This is Hawaii somewhere with nice music in the background, that sort of thing. And so as much as this might seem cool, because usually when everybody sees it from the start off, they're like, whoa. And then when I show them how it's done in the background, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not so hard. I can do that. Right. Which is really why I really like, using Google Slides in this way. But I can't take full credit for that. I borrowed that off of somebody, and then I just added more to it. So ultimately, are you guys ready to give this a shot? And I'll show you where to start. Okay. Now keep in mind, this is what you're looking at is a year's worth of work. Setting up at this Bitmoji classroom took me about an hour, in all honesty. So, what you'll create will be basic, and then you'll just build on it all year, right? Particularly, one of the issues I had when kids were online was like, how do you collect grades? For kids in their work. And my solution to that was this little click to submit button here. And it basically creates a Google form, um, where my students could literally, hand in, tell me what's your name, what's your assignment, what's the subject, and then they tell me what their grade was, right? Like, and then I very quickly was able to collect their grades. Little things like that may really help me survive a Google. Also, everything on here is clickable pretty much, even the calculator. Kids often click on the calculator and use that, even though there are simple ways to use calculators in Google and whatnot. But some kids, I don't know, they see a little picture with a click and they know they can click it, they'll click it, and it makes things easy for them. All right, let's get in the background of all of this. My first thought was I would start with a Bitmoji classroom, and I would show you how I built it, and then I'd walk through. Would you guys prefer that I literally walked through and show you guys how to build? I think it's best to build your own Google Classroom from the ground up, because then you really understand how it works. And I think that would probably be best. So if you guys want me to go fast, I'll go fast. If you guys want me to go slow, I'll go slow, whatever that takes. Oh, I should probably show you one more thing. I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but I also do this now. I call this my master links, because remember I told you guys that I'm at the place in my Google time where I hate digging into my Google Drive. It just drives me insane. As much as Google Drive is powerful, it's super powerful. It's amazing, and you should always have an organized Google Drive. Don't get me wrong. But when it comes to what's in there, I hate, starting at the beginning and, going through the folders, finding what I'm looking for. So I literally, like, notice here, folders. This is a link to the folder that everything is in, right? So if I need to dive into that folder, I'm just clicking a link to get there. I'm not, do you know what I mean? You guys hearing what I'm saying? Those little things, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's, George, you made it. What's going on here, buddy? Glad you could make it. Good morning. Anyway, George and I have been teaching together for, what was it, 7 years? 7 years, I think. And then he just moved schools, so it's nice to catch up with you again. Anyway, so this is, I call it my master links document, and so notice this is, all of my, to me, this is my teacher one. This is my teacher outline, that has all the answer keys on them linked in, right? And then this is my plan. I have literally a Google HyperDoc that has my lesson plans in it, so I don't have to redo lesson plans, right? I make them once and then I'm only just adapting them. I hate spending time reinventing the wheel. If I do some work, I want that work to be easily visible to me, and then I'll just adapt it every year. It saves me all kinds of time. And then, of course, there's a link to my student version of my math unit 1, right? So, and then same with science. This is my teacher version with all the answer keys. There's my plan, and then there's my student version that I end up linking into my start page, right? And then essentially everything I teach, all the resources I end up diving into. Um, I teach Bible class, same thing. Everything's becoming a hyperdoc. Health. I need health to be simple and easy. Online unit plan, I create a unit for that. So the outline is online, report cards, anything I do, professional development, ends up becoming going in here. So it's quicker and easier to navigate, to find, and to go wherever I'm going. Like even everything I do at the beginning of the year, I don't know. Do you guys feel like the beginning of the year is something you always reinvent and seems like it's a lot of work? I'm like, why am I reinventing it? And I'm finding it all over again. I'm like, forget that. I'm creating a start year outline where everything I need is linked into it and organized so that when I go there again next year, I'm like, click, 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 click. Oh yeah, here it is. Just edit, 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 edit. Okay, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? It's saving you time. Time is the most valuable thing we have, and I don't want to waste my time. Where did I put that? Oh, if I could just find it in my Google Drive, like, no, 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 no. I don't want to do that. Like the folder all my start stuff is in, that's the link to the folder. And, the games I play are linked there. So I can just pull them up real quick, print them off if I need to. um, you know, Supervision schedule, locker assignments, all that stuff ends up having a place to go. All the forms my kids need. Mr. Schellenberg, where can I get that form again? No way. I link it right into my start page so they can go get it themselves. Things like that. Anything to save time, and so I don't have to go into my Google Drive. It's probably I'll get over it eventually, I'm sure. But I've just stopped wanting to go into my Google Drive. So that's my other thing. I'll say that out loud. So since I'm the teacher here, oh, throw in one more thing in. Remember I said about IXL? They create, um, you know, a document that shows all the links directly related to what I'm teaching from grades. I think they start at grade 4 all the way to grade 9, right? So if you're using either Math Makes Sense or the other one, what is it? I think it's Math Focus. I don't use Math Focus, but for both of them, I didn't make this. I just converted this PDF into a Google Doc, right? I used Adobe to turn it into a Microsoft Word, and then I used Google Drive to turn this into a Google Doc. And I have a student in my grade 7 classroom right now who is functioning at a grade 4 level math wise and a grade 3 level reading wise. And I'm like, they're nowhere near what the rest of my students are doing in grade 7. And I'm like, how in the world am I going to do this? So iExcel creates, this is a document they created. And I'm going to be sharing this with my student who's at a grade 4 level. And it has all the links to every outcome they need. And they're following my math textbook, just like every other kid, because they want to be like every other kid. They don't want to stand out, right? So they're going to be using the same kind of verbiage, I guess, but he's on his own program. So he's going to do iExcel. And it's self-marking, self-grading. And once he sees the pattern, he can repeat the pattern, and hopefully he'll be able to get through grade 4 faster. And then I'm going to be telling him, as soon as you get 70% or over, you're done, right? This is a kid who, maybe even 65. Like, this kid does not need to get 100. He needs the basic understanding of knowledge so he can move on. So this is going to be a real saver for me, but it's also, I think, going to be a salvation for him too. And I didn't create this. He's just going to be writing his scores in here, his SMART score. As soon as he gets 70, he writes down his score and he moves on. And of course, I can look at it from the iExcel end, but he's also going to track his scores here. So anyway, so I'll stop talking and start building. So first off, go to your Google Drive, and I recommend you create a folder somewhere. I really recommend you have an organized Google Drive. Otherwise, this will truly drive you insane. If you are just using a search function to find everything, oh my goodness, you're going to lose most of it. So I wouldn't do that. I'd organize it into folders. I'm probably preaching to the converted. So do a good job of creating folders, but find a place to build this, right? So, and I'll go from startup. We're starting with the start page. And it seems I got a very keen groups, and no one's telling me I'm going too fast. So how about we just dive right in? This is where I keep mine. I literally just call it his classroom. My name is Henry Isaac Schellenberg. His is my initials. His classroom is me. So it's my start page. This is where I dropped it. But you just go start and then create a Google slide. And I'll show you guys how to do this from the bottom up. And you'll probably know everything I know in about a half an hour, right? And then you're just building on it, okay? I'm also going to share with you guys my repository of templates, right? But let's just build the first one so that all of you understand how this works, okay? You don't want any of this. Just select it, delete it, okay? So I don't know what you want to call it. Give it a name. I'm just going to call this, Google Survive Practice. Okay, but whatever you want call your start page, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. Whatever makes sense to you as an educator. All right. And if I'm going too fast, please stop me. I don't care if you put up your hand. It'd be probably better if you turn on your mic and say, hey, please stop. I don't mind if you interrupt me. Last thing I want to do is go too slow, but the other thing I don't want to do is go too fast. So either way, just stop me, okay, if you need to. So first off, you're going to need a background, right? So we're gonna go to this, explore button on the bottom right, okay? And we are going to, of course, explore the web, and we need like, a wall. How about we say a wall? See if I can. Wall background, something like that. I don't know, right? And it's going to go to the web. We're going to pick images here. What do you want your wall in your classroom, digital classroom, to look like? I prefer it be something that is interesting but not distracting, right? Because it's just a wall, right? So, find something you like. And just for the sake of simplicity here, I'm going to pick, maybe one of the first things I see, this one. Okay. And so you must understand that as you're building this, because of the nature of what Google Classroom or Google Slides is, it's when you click on something, it'll go to the next slide, right? The moment you click a slide, it's going to go to the next slide, but we don't want it to do that. We want it to, we only want it to go somewhere when they're clicking on something where we want them to go somewhere. So every time you bring in a picture, you hit this little link button or the shortcut to the link button. I don't know, I didn't come up. Try it again, because I have selected this background image. And maybe I got too many tabs open. I don't know. I'm gonna have to close some tabs here. It's moving kind of slow. So let me try this. Close some tabs I don't need. Okay. As soon as you hit that link button, you should get some choice. Oh, it's down way down here. That's why. Where is it? Well, because it's so big, it ends up throwing it down at the bottom here. Let's try that again. Here's the link button. And so notice at the very bottom of this, you have slides in this presentation. You need to click that. And I only have one slide right now, but you're going to need a few. Okay. So you're going to need a few to probably do what you really want to do. So you have to choose slide one, and maybe I'll show you why in mine. Let's quickly grab mine. So here, oh, let me throw this out here right now. I don't know. I'm sure you guys know how to use bookmarks. But I don't know, I kind of use bookmarks on steroids, kind of. I create folders within folders within folders. Like whenever I find a link of something, I am linking it into a folder. I kind of use bookmarks kind of like I use Google Drive. George would probably say George, what was that website that you use a lot of? Um, it's at the tip of my mind. George is probably doing admin work now. He's a hoity-toity vice principal now, so he's got all these extra things to do. He's probably just in here and disappeared. George, are you there? No, he's not even there.
I put it in the chat.
Okay, I don't have my chat open, so I'd rather look at people. What was it called?
Like Wakelet?
Yeah, thank you, Wakelet. Yeah, like I end up not using Wakelet just because it's to be honest, it's easier just to hit one star and bookmark it in here somewhere. So anyway, so I definitely use these on steroids. If you want me to go on about that, I could do that. But let's look at my start page from the back end a little bit, just so you kind of have a frame of reference of what I'm really doing. You guys looked at my page as a slide, a publish to the web slide. But what's actually happening in the background is this, right? Every time I grab a picture or a GIF that I'm linking to something, it ends up being around the outside of the actual slide view area, if that makes sense. Notice it takes a little while to load because it's probably getting a little bit too big. You definitely want to consider that. I'm literally at the place where I'm like, okay, I can't add any more slides. If I create something else, then I'm actually creating it in a new Bitmoji classroom and linking to that, if that makes sense, because this classroom, this start page is getting a little bit too big. So now that it's fully loaded, I can make this smaller so you can see it a little bit better. Everything's going slow. So you can see there's lots going on there, right? This is around the periphery of the viewable area. And so everything is getting linked in here. You know, at some point I'm going to create another survey. So I don't want to lose the survey picture. I don't want to have to find that again. So I just put it outside of the viewable area. And then as soon as I do a survey, I link the survey directly to the picture, and then I'll pull it right back in, right? I'll pull it right back in for the students. And then I'm like in class, I'm like, hey, click on that survey, right? And some would say, well, you should do that in Google Classroom. Well, there is reasons to do that in Google Classroom, especially if you want to track who did it and who didn't do it and all that kind of thing. But I'm thinking in a bigger picture, meaning, you know, I can essentially use a picture to link anything I want for the kids to go wherever I want, right? But it controls it for me, okay? In an interesting way for kids, right? So really when you were, this is my start page that you saw first, and then I click to the next slide. So the next slide, when it actually comes up, this is my math resources page. And notice there's things on the outside as well. These are my links to all of my units. I know you can't see that very well, but I do want to have you see the outside of it. So this is just a duplicate, really, of the first page where I just made changes to it to be math. And then the next page is, of course, science. And I do the same thing there. And then, you know, I give kids, this is me just being interesting and having some links to free books online that are PDFs, so they can go and read a book if they're done their work, that sort of thing. Anyway, so you kind of see what's happening in the background. You may end up creating more than one slide. So every picture, I say all of that to make the point, really, that every time you bring a picture into a slide, you want to link it to that slide. Okay, that way when the kids are clicking all over the place, it's not taking them to the next slide, if that makes sense. Did I explain that well enough? Trying not to be confusing, but that's the reality. You, every time you pull in anything, you want to link it to the slide it's on. Notice that if I did it right now, I could create a duplicate of this. As soon as it creates a duplicate of it, the one on the next page, notice it's now linked to slide 2. So it does that automatically for you. So if you end up creating a whole classroom here, like I did, and you're linking everything to slide 1, the moment you create a duplicate, every single picture will now be linked to the next slide, right? And you don't have to change all of them yourself, right? It'll do it automatically for you, okay? So I don't want to do that right now. I want to do that later. You should probably want to do that later. So I'll just delete this. So anyway, so this is going to be my wall in my background. And I'll just pull it out like this because I need a floor now. So let's go get a floor background. You can certainly get some wall and floor backgrounds if you want. Notice there's one right here. You know.
Can I pause you for a second again?
Sure. No
How
problem.
did you get that slide 1 thing again?
Yeah, good question. So if you see this little link, like there's a keyboard shortcut, Control K, but I don't use it. But you know, you get this. But notice you can't see it right now. It's actually off screen. I need to make my picture smaller so that when I click on it, it appears. It's actually this bottom button here called Slides in this presentation. And right now I only have one. And you know, I'm clicking slide 1. I'm making it choose the slide I'm on, if that makes sense. Okay. Thanks for stopping me. I want all of you to do that. The moment you have a question, please just ask. I'd rather that. Okay. That way it's more valuable to you. All right. All right. Let's pull that back down. So now I need a floor. You could just grab one like this, for example, right? You can like just grab this one, for example, and then all of a sudden, you know, you have the wall and the floor, right? I mean, do it however you want to do it. And maybe I'll do that just to keep it simple. So you need some floor and you need some, you know, a wall to make it look real, right? And sure enough, I got stuck there again. I can't get to the bottom of that. And so here it goes. I want to make sure it chooses slide 1 because I think the default is actually next slide, right? And that means when it goes live, the kids click on it and takes them to the next slide, and you want to control that essentially. Okay, so there you go. That's essentially the basics of it. And then after that, you're just pulling in whatever you want, right? Like you might want a smart board, right? Let's find a smart board, one that actually looks like a smart board. This one here looks pretty good. And it's got speakers. Look at that. Cool. I'll pull that one in. I always try to make, oh, this one won't work. What's the word? I can say transparent. If you add the word transparent, okay, you will get pictures of what you're asking for that don't have that white background, right? You don't want the white background. You want to make it look real, right? So I added the word transparent, and it should be, I'm sure I'll find a smart board here, hopefully pretty quick. I guess not. Maybe it needs to be one word. Some of these are a little bit better. Yeah, but it doesn't always come up here the way you want it to be. If that's the case, I often end up just do a Google search, right? And go smartboard transparent. Right? and then, go with images. And then now you have lots of choices. Like that little explore button doesn't always get you what you want. So I wonder if this is a good one. Yeah, this one even has a transparent background, right? And so you just click and drag it to, where is it? There, Google's 5 practice. There we go. And then you can drag it in here. My students taught me that last year about the click and drag like that. I'm like, what? I've been doing it the copy paste way, and I could just click and drag. Anyway, so, fine, make it the size, and of course this is a picture, so every time you drag in a picture, you have to make it click slide 1, make sure it's set to slide 1, so that when the kids click on it, it doesn't go anywhere, right? And then, maybe you want a desk, I don't know, a chair. What do you want in your classroom? Shelving. That's another good one. And you always want to put in this word transparent, right? As soon as you're doing that, I often use this one here. Pretty easy to find. And, just make it smaller to make it fit your page. I hope you're doing this on the side and not just watching me. And here's another good reason. Notice when I drag this in, they already have this link, Pixabay or whatever it is. I don't want that. I want to link it to slide 1. I don't want it to go anywhere. So I just click and change it to slide 1. And then now it won't go anywhere, right? So now I have a place to put some of my links for kids. It might look like a picture frame, or it might be an object that I put in my shelf so that they can link into it. I might ask for a desk or a couch. I don't know, whatever you like to have. Like I said, Explorer doesn't always get you the good stuff, so you might actually just have to go to Google Images. Okay. And then you get a lot more choice. Put in the word transparent, and then hopefully you're going to find something that meets your purposes. Ooh, that's kind of neat. Let's see if I can put in this psychedelic desk here. Oh no, that's not a. That's got a white background. Hey, by the way, do you guys want to know how to remove the white background from a picture? Would that be helpful, or is that simple? Because sometimes I'm like for mine, for example here, I borrowed a version of mine from a template from somebody else's. Her name was I'm not even sure, Marquella. I'm not sure how to say her name. Sheets, that was her name. I modified hers. Notice the name in the bottom end there. I modified hers, and I liked hers a lot, so I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. That's why it only took me about a half an hour to make this work. I borrowed hers. She was sharing, so I used, right? Anyway, so I don't know what led me there. You can remove the white background. What is it? It's called remove.bg. There's only about 15 to 20 websites out there that will do it. This is just one of them. I don't even know what the best is. I just know this one does it. So all you really have to do is save this picture, right? Save image as, and I'll just call it desk. Okay. Time for a break. Do you guys want a break? I don't know. Do you guys need a 5-minute break, 10-minute break? I don't know. You guys tell me. Let's make it valuable to you. Anyway, then you just go to remove .bg, I think it's called. Right? Because I really like this desk. I want to use it. And all you have to do is save the picture and then go here. It's free. Upload the image. Find it. I called it desk. By the way, I am working on a PC and not a Chromebook. I mean, Chromebooks are wonderful and all for their purposes, but I find a good PC does things a lot faster, and I have more screens and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so then there you go. Right away it did it. There's no background. It just took the white and got rid of it, and then I can download. Right, boom. Maybe later. and then download which version you want. I prefer bigger, you know, it doesn't let me do apparently the HD version of it, but as long as, you know, the free version works. And then here's my practice, you know, then I can pull in my desk, and now my desk has no background and it works awesome. And notice you can certainly put your desk off, you know, like it doesn't have to be on the picture. Whatever, you know, Google Slides will just cut off whatever you don't want. So if I put it in presentation mode here, you know, it still looks good, right? My desk doesn't have to be always right on it. I often have things hanging off the side, if that makes sense. So there's my desk. You guys get the idea. I could pull in endless pictures and endless images, okay? And that's how you do it. Every time you bring something in, though, it is really important to remember just to, you know, make it link to slide one. It sounds simple when you only have one slide out there, but as soon as this might build like I did, where you have more than one classroom, maybe you have an art classroom, maybe you have a, you know, whatever you teach, health classroom, I don't know. You know, you end up duplicating these, and then that becomes complicated because those pictures will then go to other slides, and that's not what you want them to do. Okay, any questions for me? Did I do this enough about the pictures to make it look real? Yeah, we're good. Awesome. Love the feedback. Appreciate it. So here now, just to make it interesting, some other things that I do, jumping back here, that really help. Let's jump to D here, Bitmoji extension. You guys have probably heard about this, but you need the Bitmoji extension because you want to put yourself in there, right? So you would need to add this to Chrome. And the beauty of that is when you're finished this process, you end up getting this little button up here. I don't know if you can see that's a little small, but when you click that, notice all my Bitmojis appear here, and you can see that. Oh, why not? You guys not sharing that. I need to share my whole window then. I'll stop sharing this for just a second. Apparently I have to share the entire screen, otherwise you're not going to be able to see that. I need this one. There we go. I'm back. I thought I could share a window and it would let you see that stuff, but apparently not. So notice it's this one here, and when I click on it, it pulls down, of course, all your Bitmojis. You can search for things that relate to what you want. And do understand that Bitmoji is also a iPhone app that you need, and you need to download that Bitmoji app, and you actually build your Bitmoji on your smartphone or your iPad or whatever. Build it there first, and then once you've built it here, then it'll work online here. Okay, does that make sense? All right, you're not actually building it in Chrome. Chrome extension is just making the app available to you in Chrome, if that makes sense. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, please, again, stop me if I'm going too fast. I'm really want to use your time wisely, so that you're not end up, you know, just hearing me babble on forever. If it's easy, I just want to move on. So then from here, you know, you're going to, in this classroom here, you're going to pull down your Bitmoji. And then I think the word is profile. Profile. So if you just hit profile, um, oh, I, is it, I thought it was profile. There's a word, I'm pretty sure it's profile, one of those words. It allows you just to see that your side views with no words in them. And I'm trying to remember, because like, for example, this one here, if I just click and drag this one in, this is probably me this morning prepping for my, you know, for this session, right? But you want the ones, preferably the ones without the words, right? And I thought it was profile, but maybe my memory doesn't serve well. But you can get versions of these where they don't have any pictures, which is why, you know, mine, sorry, not that one, this one, this is where you get me pointing here, right? Rather than no words attached to it. So anyway, let me close some tabs here so that my computer runs a little bit faster. That's definitely something that in Chrome usually, as soon as you start opening tabs, Chrome starts moving slowly. And I'm working on a PC and it still moves slowly sometimes. But anyway, that's how you get your Bitmojis on there. I am always cropping images because as soon as, like, notice how the space around this Bitmoji um, is kind of big. You always want to resize it to fit the size of your classroom. But all of this transparent space, if I have a picture behind there, my students can't link on it, right? So I end up double clicking, of course, and making every image as small as I can make it. That gives me more real estate for putting things on walls on my classroom so they can still link on it, because that transparent piece of this picture is going to limit how much space I have, if that makes sense, right? So now I could put something right here on the wall and I can click on what's on the wall. Hopefully that I'm making sense there and not, um, you know, not losing you there. So now, whatever you want to put on the wall. For example, I use IXL all the time. So, I might go to get an image of IXL now, IXL Learning, images, um, right? Let's just grab this one. It's simple. Uh, I always don't use the thumbnail. I always open the picture and actually go into the picture, but I don't want this one to be transparent. I actually want this one to be have a white background because I want it to be a picture on my wall. So now I have the full image, and now I grab, bring it over to my Google Classroom here, and then, just resize it. Of course, I'm going to crop it while it's big so that it's, not taking up any more real estate than it needs to be. And I also want this now to actually go to IXL, right? So this is actually where I want them to go, right? So this is going to help them navigate all the places they need to be. So, grab that URL, jump back into here, and then this time now you're linking it to the website you want them to go. And just for interest sake, I prefer to put a border around things like this, right? Because then it just looks like a picture, right? It looks like a picture frame, right? So now it's got a border around it, and now I can put it on my bookshelf, right? And you can make it look like it's on a bookshelf, right? Right, there you go. Now I have a picture on the wall on my shelf, and it will take them to IXL, right? Which is something I use a fair bit. At least the students do formatively. Anyway, and so now you're really just building content related to what you want it to be, okay? And so that's Bitmoji, and that's how I bring things into my classroom. Can I move on from there? Do you guys want to try that a little bit? Do you want me to give you guys a little bit of time to play there, or if you have questions? I don't want to move on too fast, but I would definitely want it to be something that makes sense before I move on. So I'll give you guys a second, maybe give me some feedback. Tell me when you're ready to move on, okay?
Can you just show me one more time how you linked that web address to the picture?
Sure, no problem. What's another thing I use a lot? Prodigy. Prodigy is one kids love. Prodigy game. There it is. Boom. All right, so this is the website, but I'm going to first go get the picture. Eventually, I'll come back here and get the link for it, but let's get an image for it first. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Prodigy right here. Again, I'm going right to the actual picture. I find usually the thumbnails. You can grab the thumbnail. It depends on what you're using it for. And if your start page is starting to get a large file size, you might want to grab the thumbnail, I guess. But I usually just go and get the actual full image, right? So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crop this bad boy. I'll get to it here shortly. Always cropping. I'm not going to worry about the link yet because I'll get that in a second. I want to put a border around it. Usually I pick 3. It'll be about, big enough to go on my bookshelf. Got to make it look real. Oh, that may be a little bit too small. Maybe I'll make my bookshelf bigger, especially so you guys can see it better. All right, you guys can play with that according to what you like. You know, size is always something I play with because I want it to, it's kind of fun to make it look real. So this is really my, you know, this is the image, but now I want them to go to that website when they click it. So I'm going to go back here and go to all and actually go to the website. And so I'm going up here to the URL, the Omnibar, as I believe it's called. And I just highlight it and control copy on my keyboard, right? And then head back here, find my picture, click on it, and it's the same link button, right? The same link button right there. And now I'm just pasting it, right? And as soon as they click on that, it's going to take them to Prodigy. So I'm basically using these images to curate all of the places that are acceptable for my kids to go when they're done their work, right? I don't want them just searching the web, right? That's an abyss of waste of time and distraction. But I use my start page to help them to know what's appropriate when they're done their work, or to help them study, or all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. Again, I'll let you guys go for a little bit. I'm kind of waiting for you guys to tell me, hey, we're ready to move on. We've learned this. And so I'll just pause there and let you guys play a little bit, because I know you guys are thinking about, what do I want mine to look like? And you're probably throwing a couple of things in, just practicing. So I'll stop talking and I'll wait till you guys say, okay, we're ready for the next thing. Okay.
I have a quick question.
Sure, Ben.
If you knew you were only going to teach the subjects you were teaching for 1 year, would you put all that effort into building all this up?
That is a very good question. I think my gut says right away no, but in reality, once you get good at this, particularly, you know, making the outline, right? Like, let me close some tabs here. Like for my students, like the bit mode, like the start page I create, I would use that for any class I teach. I would just link it in there and I just duplicate the page, and now it's health class, even though I might not ever teach it again, right? You're just duplicating it, and then I might change the heading and say health, right? Because this resource word, I could just double click on it and type health, and now this is my health class, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual outline, right, I'm at the place where, you know, as soon as I'm creating something, I'm creating it anyway. If I'm thinking ahead, I'm going, well, why don't I just, whatever I'm creating is actually an outline, right? It's just links, right? And I just grab the link, and then this is how I'm organizing my learning, or what I'm producing. I'd probably just throw the links in here, even if it wasn't pretty like this. I would just throw the links in there. And then if I ever had to do it again, or I have a teacher who comes to me and says, I'm now teaching that class, because somebody's going to teach it next year. And they're guaranteed, Ben, they're going to come to you and say, hey, where are your resources? Right? And now you can just email them the outline, because it's just a bunch of links, right? And it can be ugly if you want it to be. Notice my, you know, which one can I throw in here? You know, do what you want, right? But if you're asking me what I would do, I would probably create something ugly like this. This is not pretty. This is only for me, right? Where I'm just like organizing my links so I understand it, right? I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see it, I guess, a little bit better. You know, I would just throw in the links there so that if I ever did have to teach it again, it's just like click the link, boom, 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 and now I'm building on what I did in the past.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I hate reinventing the wheel. It's a little bit of, you know, it's not quite a pet peeve. It's not that annoying, but wherever I can do a little thing, that means I don't have to reinvent it later. Because I guarantee if I ever have to teach it again, then I'm going, then I'm going, oh yeah, I did this before. What am I doing now? You know, and I'm like, then I'm going into my drive again and I'm looking for it all over the
That's
place.
exactly what I do every year.
Oh, Ben, that drives me insane. If all
Oh,
I
it
have to
drives
do
me
is
insane too.
if the only thing I have to do is just grab the link and put it into a doc like this, that's
Yeah.
a simple little thing for me to do. And then it's a little more organized than it was in the past.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. But you know, it depends on how comfortable you are creating these hyperdocs, right?
Yeah.
And I'll do these hyperdocs later after we're done creating this Bitmoji classroom.
Yeah, no, I can figure out how to make one of those. Just
Yeah, they're not actually that hard. Mine are just on steroids because I'm building it for kids to find interest in it, right?
yeah,
When it's for me, they're dull, right? Really dull,
yeah.
right? Anyway, good
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Again, I'm just waiting for you guys to tell me when you're ready to absorb more. Okay.
Hey Henry, I'm just sort of working on putting together those unit plan documents with all the links in it and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I'm gonna have to duck out for a meeting here soon. I'm hoping actually to pop by TCS after lunch, so I'll come in and say hi, and I'll work there for a while. So
Sweet.
I'm
Great.
gonna drop. I'm gonna drop out of the meeting now, but
Okay.
don't take it personally.
Oh, you know me, George.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'll see you after lunch.
Okay. See ya. Well, you
Okay.
might not see me after lunch, just so you know.
That's
I have
okay too.
I have a kid in grade 12 who's has a high school game in Lacombe, so we got a bit of a drive.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for doing this, man. It's great.
You bet. No problem.
Hi again, Henry.
Sure.
Can you just show me again how I didn't actually pay attention to this because I was busy doing my like follow you, but the IXL, for example, you put only the logo. So how did you link what you exactly want your kids to see?
Well, that's a loaded question. How about I repeat what I showed earlier? Is that
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's what you're asking the question.
Yeah.
So if IXL is a resource that's an acceptable resource for my students, then, and it is, I want it to be available. So then, you know, I essentially, you know, just go to, you know, a search page, right? I'm looking for IXL, right? And first thing I always get is the image for it, right? You're going to need an image. So I just grabbed, you know, one of the first ones I saw. This one has a transparent background. I don't want that. I want it to be more like a picture. So I just grabbed a different one, like this one, for example. And then I just click and drag it, right, onto the correct tab. And so I put a border around it, you know, just by choosing, you know, a border. You know, makes it look a little bit more like a photo on the wall. It makes it more realistic. I also crop it, double click on it. I only want the part to appear that is valuable to me, you know, that sort of thing, right? And then now that I have a picture that's going to represent it, now I have to just go back here and go get the link, right? This is under all. This is IXL. Just go right to IXL and wherever you want them to go, right? And then just jump into the omnibar up here and then use your, you know, copy that link, right? And then go back in here and I have my photo selected. Every single picture you bring in has to be linked somewhere, and most of them should be linked to slide 1 because you don't want them to go anywhere. And if they click on my desk, I don't want to take them to slide 2. I want them to stay there. So you would then, you know, choose slide 1, but I want them to go to IXL here, so I'm clicking them in here and I hit apply. So now this picture will, when they click on it, it will take them there. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure. Sure.
Is there a way, like I have PDF sections of a textbook, can I link that to one of these pictures somehow?
Sure, absolutely. Personally, just get my personal take on it. I I teach math. Math makes sense 7. I don't. I tend to not link textbooks into my stuff just because, just because of copyright, and I don't want somebody checking in on me, that sort of thing. Just to kind of protect myself in that sense. But apparently, there's plenty of teachers out there who aren't worried about that at all. So I just teach my kids how to search up textbooks, right? Like, so like I just did, if you throw in the word PDF at the end of anything, you know, it's going to find it, right? And looky here, Mr. Windsor here, I bet you he's got them all, right? And so, oh, there they are, you know, um, here's all of them, right? And here's first one. I tell kids, hey, once you figure out how to go find it, why don't you bookmark it, right? So I teach them how to bookmark things so that it comes up quick and easy. But at least then on my stuff, nothing is linked to it directly, if that makes sense. Can you do it? Absolutely. Like if I wanted this one, I would literally right now click control. I would highlight it, go control copy, right? Go into here, and maybe I'll make my smartboard link to it, right? I'll break that link and go into here. I'll link to that textbook, apply, right? And now when I click on it, it takes you right to the textbook, right? So yes, you can. It's not something I do for the reasons explained.
That's
Okay.
where I got mine from. Stole it from some other teacher's website. So
Yeah, exactly, right? So I teach kids how to find it so that they can use it on their own and they gain a skill, but I'm protected. At least that's the idea. Don't tell anybody I do that. Okay? Right? So that's what I end up doing. Good question. All right, you guys could probably spend a day on just starting to build with what I've taught you, but can I stop you all there
Yes.
and just move on? Show you a couple of other tricks that just add interest here, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Because I want to give you the whole second rest of the day to build what you want, ultimately. But the next thing I want to show you is something called Giphy. Giphy for Chrome. I use Giphy for Chrome all the time. Okay, like constantly. So all you have to do essentially is, I've linked it into my little PowerPoint presentation here for simplicity for me. But just go to the Chrome Web Store and search up Giphy for Chrome and add it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And basically, the Giphy is gifs, endless gifs. And for any idea you might have in your life, somebody's probably created something better related to that GIF. So go find this, add it right now, okay? And I'm going to give you a second to do this before I show you how it works, because you'll want to play with it a little bit. And as soon as I discovered Giphy for Chrome, I got to tell you, this started becoming truly interesting to me, and maybe even a rabbit hole, if you want, where I probably spent way more time here than I ever needed to. But kids like this stuff. So once you installed that, close this one up too. Don't need extra things open. So here's our practice page right here. So, I mean, notice if I should jump at my start page for a little bit. No, I ended up closing it. Grab the teacher version of this, not the student one. Wait for a second for this to load. My start page is a little bit large at this point, so it does does take a little bit. Okay. I think I have some other tabs here I can close, so maybe my computer will load a little bit faster. There we go. All right, so notice I have a lot of moving pieces on my start page. And really, anything that's moving is a GIF, right? Like isn't anything fancy really about it. It might look fancy from the to the eye of the person who doesn't really know what I've done here, but as soon as I, pull back the veil and you see from the back end what I'm creating, you're like, wait a minute, I can do that. This isn't so hard. This is simple stuff, right? So Giphy makes it super simple. Okay, so that's how anything that you see moving is happening here. I definitely like moving arrows. I use them a lot. I'll show you how to notice my coffee cup looks like steam is coming out of it, right? That's an animated GIF. The star going around the homework that's jumping around. So let me throw in this caveat here in regards to GIFs. You'll probably learn very quickly, you want GIFs that don't distract student learning, unless that's your purpose, right? If your purpose is to draw their attention and distract them to something that is meant to draw their attention, then go for it. But in regards to the day-to-day, notice my little star going around there isn't so interesting that everybody's like, oh, check that out, and then it causes a distraction in the classroom, if you know what I mean. It is just interesting enough where they're like, they will read that word homework time. You know what I mean? I want them to read it, but I don't want them to be distracted by it. My little arrow, if I jump to slide 2, I use a little arrow to draw attention, because I'll end up saying it to students over and over. Which unit are we on? Oh, it's the red arrow that's bouncing, but it's not distracting, if you know what I mean. It's interesting enough that they'll look at it, but it's not distracting, and it will cause like a sideways conversation in my classroom where I now have to, bring them all back, if that makes sense, right? Try to create things in that way so it's interesting but not disruptive. And there's a fine line there. Everybody understand what I mean? If you're teaching your classroom, you'll catch on quick, right? So anyway, so let me show you how to do this. So Giphy is, once you added it, it's a little app here, or drop down menu here that happens. Notice there's still a button here, shows you that right now we're in GIFs, right? And this is probably where I spend the least amount of time here. I'm spending most of my time in the second one. Okay, so notice if homework might be, a word that we want to use, right? So it wasn't too hard. Look at where I found my homework time that's bouncing around a little bit. It was right there, right? I didn't have to look very far to find the one that I wanted, right? And all you literally do is just click and drag it onto your screen. And notice there's 2 text boxes. We actually created one text box, and it created the GIF. And the text box is actually in front of the GIF, right? So I'm going to click off of it so not both of them are selected. And then I'm going to click on it again, and I'm just going to hit delete. That got rid of the text box in front of the GIF, right? And then notice how big the GIF really is. That's taking up too much real estate. I'm going to have to crop that, and then go down here. I usually crop it while it's big, right? Like this. And now that it doesn't take up any more real estate than I want it to, and then I put it wherever I want it to be. You remember probably from the start page where I had it over top of my plant, right? It's sitting, my homework time is sitting over top of my plant. It's kind of in the corner there, right? Someplace where I don't really, care or what have you. So for now, I'll just put it here. But remember, this is a GIF and it's linkable, right? What I've done with mine, just to show you, mine is actually, if you click on that link, it will take them to, this is technically another Google slide. It's on a separate Google slide completely. And I will put my math and science homework and I will sum it up here. So they can, see on a daily basis the things that really matter, right? Some would say, but you could use Google Classroom for that. And I do. I put everything on Google Classroom, but I got to tell you, I have that small percentage of kids that they're just so visual. Even Google Classroom, they seriously, they don't even look. They don't read. As soon as they have to read something, they're like, I don't want to read that, right? I don't know. There's always a few of those. So to try and help those guys out, I create something visual here where I will write in what their homework is, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's what I use it for. Some would say, well, how in the world did you get the star to fly over that? Well, uh, let me just link this to page 1 because I don't want it to go slide 1. I don't want it to go anywhere, right? So you always do that. And it's like, how did I get the star? Well, that's another Giphy as well. I think I just went here and went to the sticky tab, and I think I said magic. It's been a while now, but I think I said magic. And then scrolling down here, and you're like, where's some magic? Oh, here's some stars. You could pull some stars over top of it and make it seem magical. Oh, there's my star going around in a circle. There he is right there, right? Nothing magical about it, actually. It's just a GIF. I pull it in there and I click off and I click back on. I need to get rid of, just hit delete. On the picture here, delete, it's gone. Now I only have the star, right? And I just drug it right over my homework time. And now I just very quickly recreated for you exactly what I did. It's really just 2 GIFs on top of each other, right? And of course, because it's a new GIF, I want to make sure that it's going to slide 1 and it's not going to go anywhere until I'm ready to make it go somewhere. So now all of a sudden I'm debunking my start page and you're like, wait a minute, all of a sudden that doesn't seem so hard, right? Hopefully, right? You're like, wait a minute, it looks interesting, it looks cool, kids like it, but it's not actually that hard to create in here. Where did I get my arrows that point at things? Same place, right? Just say arrow, right? And you're going to get endless arrows. You can even say red arrow. Some of these things, like this one here, to me, this one's annoying, right? Like anything like this, ugh. Right as soon as I open this up, 1, it bugs my eyes to look at it. But 2, if I was to pull this in for kids, kids would start talking about it right away. And that would probably distract from what I want to teach about. So I try not to pull in anything that causes distraction, right? By the way, that's the whole deal, right? Now, anything you have as an imagination around, what you want to pull in here, you can see all my animations here that you can see around the sides. This is where they come from, right? I literally debunked it. It's not actually that hard. And I tend to, if I use it once, I don't delete it when I'm done with it. I just pull it off the viewable part of the screen, if that makes sense. So then I can use it again later. I hate reinventing the wheel. Whenever I can, if I use something, I'll probably use it again because, it's coming back again next year. We go through cycles, right? So I hate reinventing the wheel. Okay, I'm going to let you guys play a little bit. Okay, I will stop talking. I'll let you guys play with this, and I'll give you guys a little bit of time to just make sure you understand this and hopefully make your own start page a little bit interesting. And I'm almost done with this. This is, you guys know 90% of this. Okay, I'll stop talking. Hey, everybody. How about we have a little 10-minute break? Would that be all right? If you want to have a little bit longer than a 10-minute break, I'm fine with that. But I'll be back in for sure 10 minutes and be ready to answer any of your questions that you have. And then I'll show you a couple more things that are pretty quick and easy, okay? And but I got to tell you, you guys have 95% of it already, okay? All right. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in a little bit. I'm back if you have questions, but I understand if not everybody is ready yet, which is fine. How you liking this, Ben? It's helpful?
Yeah, it's helpful. I'm in one of those situations where every year I get changed
Ooh,
changed
yeah.
grades and stuff, and so like having a kind of a basic classroom would be good, and I think like organizing my thoughts would be good. I just always find that I'm like a step behind. Like I could probably use a couple summers just working.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm always kind of trying to set things up last minute as opposed to
Yeah.
getting ahead of the game, which is
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, and I know everybody's situation is different, but I guess in the position where I've now taught math and science now for like the 8th year, right?
yeah.
Probably the science more like 12 years. So, you know, that's probably why the resources are all there, and it might look a little bit crazy because of that.
Sorry.
Is that your school?
Yeah, that's my school. I'll just turn my mic off while you're
No, no,
talking.
no, no. Don't turn the mic off. You know, do you know how to set that what's it called? Noise cancellation filter? Turn that on. Go into settings
So
and audio and then noise cancellation. Turn that on. Like the reason you couldn't hear my music was because and I literally had the music up to the mic. And the reason you couldn't hear the music is because I had noise cancellation on. It was only looking for voices talking,
okay, I
right?
got it on now. So
I bet you now I will never hear that buzz again, even if you leave your mic on the whole time. It's actually
I,
quite impressive.
I wish I could do that with my ears.
Yeah, you're right. Anyway, I guess I have the benefit of repeating that. But
Yeah.
even so, like even if you create simple hyperdocs
Yeah.
around the work that you're doing, I got to tell you, it'll save you time,
Yeah.
especially when you start like even just linking the shortcuts to the folders. You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
like, oh, now it's one click, and I'm like, I just saved myself 5 minutes of waiting for the spinny thing to open each folder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's
Uh,
what I'll be doing this afternoon is just trying to organize.
yeah. When you start
Yeah.
thinking this way, it changes how you organize everything, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always going, how can I make this simple? How can I make this simple? How can you know?
Yeah.
And grabbing those links or whatever ends up hopefully doing that. At least that's my point, or at least how I'm using it now. Not that it's the best way, it's just the way that I find life to be easier for me now, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where are you teaching, Ben?
I'm at OBK. I'm at
Oh,
Calgary Islamic School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who did I know? Munton. Munton, was he in one of those schools? I think there's 3 of them, aren't there?
He was here for 2 days and he was on leave all like
Oh,
last year. So he like
okay.
transferred here and then he went on leave.
Oh, okay. Because
And he's not back. Yeah.
his wife teaches in my school. So
Yeah.
anyway, not that it matters.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
So anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mean, are you thinking you're going to get into a situation where you can at least be able to repeat?
I hope every year, right? Like, but
How long
yeah,
you been teaching?
things change and then they change again. And like, for instance, last year I started with grade 3 and then halfway through the year I got moved to grade 7. And this year I was told to grade 5 when I got here. And then a week later I moved to grade 7. So
Mm-hmm.
I rarely end up like doing the same thing year to year. So and I'm kind of a math science guy, and like ideally I would just teach lots of that, like have more than one course. But this year I'm generalist, so I'm like trying to teach grade 7 LA well, or teach grade 7 social well, or so.
Mm-hmm.
I think I need to start with the stuff that I teach more frequently, but yeah, it's a lot of time.
It's reinventing the wheel every year. Is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard work. That's for sure.
But that's okay. Like you get something like this, like even I've started building like a little classroom image. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever have to do that again if I don't want. Like
That's
I can just
exactly.
reuse that. And
That's exactly what I do.
exactly.
Like, because of what I did through COVID, creating those outlines, I'm basically lesson planned in math and science forever now, right? My lesson plans are like, do that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if my principal ever says, show me your lesson plan, and I show her that, and she's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. You know, like she's not going to complain about me not doing a good lesson plan.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
So, anyway. So is
Yeah.
everybody back? I'm assuming they're going to turn on their cameras when they get back, and then I know I can move on. I know that's more than 10 minutes, so I mean, I just wanted to use good use of time here if we want to. Are you guys ready to move on to the next thing? Yeah, some shaking heads, yes. Okay, so let's do that. Another thing that I use a fair bit, and I'm not even saying it's the best, I'm just saying it's what I use. I think there's a lot of things out there that are good, so feel free to use whatever works for you, not necessarily what works for me. But one of the things I use a lot is Awesome Screenshot extension. Similar to the other ones, it's just a Chrome extension. You go to Chrome Web Store. It's called Awesome Screenshot and Screen Recorder. Add that in, and I'll show you how it works here real super quick here. I gotta say I use the screenshot piece of that, and someone might say, there's a lot of ways to do screenshots, and there's 100 different ways. So feel free to use the one that works best for you, but I'll show you why I use this one. I know there's other ones that do this too, but this one does everything I needed to do, so this is the one I use. So there's that pitch, okay? So for example here, now that I'm back on my page here, I'll probably jump back here while you guys are loading that in. Giphy also, play with the buttons in the bound here. They definitely have sounds too. This is a new one. I haven't really played with this one a whole lot. So you can, search for things that has voice acted somehow to it. I don't really use this one very much either. But then the text one, I do use this one from time to time, which is why I say it. So, you could create almost anything. My name, Schellenberg, type it in there. They will turn this stuff very quickly into an animated word. Okay, just to finish off with Giphy here. If that's valuable to you, if you don't care, fine, but it's something I use. All right, so there's that. That's Giphy again. But as soon as you've got Awesome Screenshot in there, notice you have 2 options here. You will have to log in, and I know I'm probably going a little bit too fast for you, but kind of as you're logging in, use Google to log in and create an account, that sort of thing. You get this little button that becomes available, and it must be popular because they're updating this thing all the time. They're always adding features to it. So the one I probably use the most is select area. Okay. And so you literally, can choose whatever area of the screen you want and hit copy. And as soon as you do that, right away, you can paste what you copy, right? And so there is literally what I copied on my screen, which is not revolutionary. Um, but the beauty of this for me is not actually just doing the copy paste piece of this. It's actually the other function here. If I select the area one more time and notice the capture button here. Okay. If you hit capture on this, it opens up a new page where all of a sudden you have a bunch of tools that are free. By the way, I pay for almost nothing. I think the only thing I pay for is actually, what is it? It's, sorry, I get on little bunny trails. Sorry, it's the nature of who I am at this point. Maybe it's our digital age, planbook.com. This is probably the only thing I pay for. And I think it's about $12 a year. And it makes my world easier. I'm willing to pay for something this good. It's also an app for your Android and Apple, your smartphone, whatever it is. There's a version for it. I can literally plan my lesson using voice to text, right? Or whatever, give myself notes or whatever. And let's look at it a weekly basis. You can put in your standards in there. I won't talk about this too much, but this is the only thing I'm actually willing to pay money for. And then if you do a decent job of this, and of course this may not help Ben, but if you're teaching the same thing over again, there's a function when you create your new year. It says, do you want to copy last year's lessons? Yes, I do. Right? And pulls them all in. And you're teaching almost all the same things, and then your whole year is planned like it was before, and then you're just editing your lessons for the most part, not reinventing them. I try to not reinvent. So this is the only thing I pay for. There's my little, they should pay me for that little thing, but they don't. Anyway, so now I'm back here. This is awesome screenshot. So you can just play with some of the tools. You can now crop the image, which is pretty straightforward. You could change its size. You can paint on it. I'm often using this square tool where I'm like, hey, kids, notice that? Or, the circle tool where I'm like, hey, check that out. So you can take any web page and start writing on the picture version of it. You can certainly grab arrows, right? Hey, look at that, kids. You can also write on it, right? Hello, whatever you want to write on it. You can paint on it. I don't really do that very often, but that's kind of cool. And I think there's a blur function here too. This little paint drop, especially if it's a picture of a kid or something, or words that you want to blur out. You click the blur tool, and it'll blur out the words and the text, whatever you want, so that it doesn't end up appearing. I use that a lot. I blur things out all the time, especially when I'm in a textbook or something like that. And then as soon as you're done doing what you want, of course, you can change color, pixels, undo, redo, all this kind of stuff. You guys are probably familiar with things like that. When you hit done, though, now you have a few choices. I usually just right click, copy the image, and then I paste it wherever I want it. But you can certainly save it to Google Drive. You can download it. You can save it as a PDF. You can print it. You can, if you really get in there, I never use it, but you can. Awesome Screenshot has like a storage location, blah, blah, blah. I don't play with any of that. I just save right to Google Drive. If I care to save it, I'm putting it in Google Drive because that's limitless, or on my computer desktop. So you can see how I use that, okay? Where there might be uses for that. Now, where I really use this is when I'm doing something in a textbook, right? So we were talking all about textbooks, like Math Makes Sense, 7 PDF, find that real quick. The beauty of Awesome Screenshot is if I'm teaching a lesson here, you know, and I'm creating my outline, and I'm like, maybe they have a graphic in here that I really like, or an explanation. Maybe I want to put this into my outline, right? Maybe I'll pull up my outline real quick, my student version of this, so that I'm in math. So this is my first unit. Notice I use bookmarks a lot to try and be able to navigate very quickly just to save time. But so let's say, you know, I want this picture here on my textbook. I just use Awesome Screenshot, you know, hit select, and it's saying this one is blocked. They're not all blocked, by the way, but if you run into one that is blocked, there's workarounds for that too. But I think for Chrome, um, most of the time it's not. This might be a new feature. I'm actually surprised it's blocking me, to be honest, because I use this to do all of my textbook, but maybe they updated it. Like on Chrome, I think you can, what's the keyboard shortcut? I think it's Control Shift and, you know, what's the little button? Are you guys on Chromebooks right now? Or are you guys on PCs? No? Okay, then let's not talk about the Chromebook. I'm always telling kids what to do in a Chromebook. But I have a snippet tool. It looks like this. You can see my screen. So then I might be in the snippet tool then, and I go new, and it does the same thing. Then it's really just my window, right? And go like so. And now I can go edit copy, right? And then I go back into my outline right here. And then I can literally put it in wherever I want, right? Might take a little second here. Paste, try that again. And then it throws in the picture, right? And then of course, every picture, I might crop it. I only want it to take up as much real estate as it needs to. I might resize it, but then I'm always playing with this tool. I'm usually using this middle one, which means wrap text. You can even make it go, you know, behind text or in front of text. But most of the time, I'm making it wrap text so that when, you know, it's the right size, text will go around it, and then do what I want it to do. So I do that kind of stuff a lot. Okay, and that's basically how I pull things into my outline, which I'll talk about a little bit more. So a little bit later. So I use Awesome Screenshot a lot. The other thing I use Awesome Screenshot for a lot is to take, especially when you start creating your outlines, like this outline, I might give kids instructions in this outline. So I'll create a little short video. With Awesome Screenshot, you can go to record, and it's 5 minutes for free. Okay, 5 minutes for free. And I gotta say, when you're giving kids instructions on how to do something, you don't need 5 minutes most of the time. You need maybe a minute or two, right? And so as soon as you create this video, you can do your desktop, this tab, or the cam only. I might often just use the cam only, or desktop, or this tab, to explain to them how to do something. And so it makes a very quick video, and then you can download that video, upload it into YouTube, or download it right into Google Drive, which is why my drive is so large. It just create quick little videos, but videos are large, so they end up filling up your Google Drive very quickly and make the numbers go up, but they're unlimited. I feel like I'm rambling. Please excuse me. If I'm talking too fast, please stop me. Um, but you know, you can then very quickly make a video. I'm not even signed in, and I can create a video. And sure enough, it just starts. And I'm actually should be over here. I think it's using the other cam. I have two webcams, and one's really old, and I just got a new one yesterday, which is why my face is off to the side. And then I can basically talk about everything. I think there's even some tools you can turn on. It didn't this time, and then I can't see where, but you end up just hitting stop right on this thing, and then it creates a very quick little video that you can check. And notice you can upload it right to Google Drive or to YouTube, and you're good to go, right? And then now it becomes a link. So I could then link it right back into my unit outline. So this, I might have teacher instructions or something written there. And then in my classroom, I would say, hey, watch my instructions, and then I don't have to repeat myself, right, over and over again. It's just a quick little watch my instructions, off you go, right? So that's what I use it for. Um, you could probably play with that later if you want to. You could say, Henry, I use a bunch of other tools. There's other good ones. I even have them here, like Screencastify. This is another good one I like a lot, but it basically does the same thing as Awesome Screenshot. And because I'm using it so much to screenshot things all the time, why not just have it in one app? It gets one less thing. So yes, there are other ones. Do what works for you. I'm not saying mine's the best way. It's just the way that things go easily and quickly for me. Okay. Um, what was the last thing here? Autoplay videos, and then I want to share with you guys my sample folder. I'll link it for you guys. Unless you guys have questions about Awesome Screenshot. It's pretty simple. If you're reasonably tech savvy, you just start playing and you'll have it really quickly. I don't think I have to give you a bunch of time to play with it. So autoplay videos, a lot of people, for whatever reason, and maybe it's just the school I'm in, or maybe it's just, it just seems obvious to me. Like, I have my fourth slide in my start page. This is an autoplay video. Hopefully you guys are familiar with how to bring videos into a slide. I'll just review that real quick. Like insert video, right? Often I'm finding the video first, and then I'm just adding it by the URL. I just paste the URL in here and then quickly add it. You can also look for it in your Google Drive, of course. Hopefully this is something that's normal. But you just insert the video. And as soon as you insert that video, notice you're going to get formatting options on the right-hand side. Okay. And you should click on this guy. And I have this choice set to automatically play. So the moment they get to this slide, the video automatically starts. Of course, there might be some reasons you might not want that video to play automatically. Well, then don't pick that choice, right? You can just have it on click or manual. You have your choices depending on what you want to do with it and how kids use it. But in regards to the purposes I use for like my prayer room or my quiet room, all of those videos, as soon as I click on it, it goes to a new slide, and then the videos automatically start playing. And one of you might say, well, why do you have the video dragged off the bottom? Well, the reason I drag it off the bottom is because that is where the start and stop play buttons are for the video. And I don't want the kids starting and stopping my video. If they're going to be on this slide, I want them to just watch the video. I don't want them to have to mess with that. And maybe that's not a big deal to some, but that's why I dragged it off, because notice when I hit present and it automatically goes to this slide, it'll start playing right away when it's ready. But notice they can't stop this video, right? They can't stop it at all. The play, they can click on it to stop, but notice how my little buttons are off the bottom here, and I should probably make it disappear a bit more. But they can't manipulate, they can't go to YouTube, right? They can't click on those links and things like that. I'm just eliminating them. So it's just an idea for you guys to play with, depending on what age group you are. So if you have younger kids, this is certainly a good choice so that they don't have, I can't even get lower. Got to get this, fix it up here, 50%. I would drag it a little bit lower, like so. And that way now none of those buttons will appear. This is a little motivation for my kids. This is Motivation to Study. It's a YouTube channel and they have inspirational videos. So I link that there for them when they are done their work. They can go there and anyway. All right, so that's how you can create autoplay videos and why I do it the way I do it. Okay, and then you notice now this time they might be able to click on the video to start and stop, but they can't actually go elsewhere, right? Clicking on it, yeah, they can start and stop, but they can't. Notice the controls are now disappeared. All right. Maybe that's a geeky teacher point of view. Anyway, so that is the bulk of everything I wanted to show you, except for this shared sample folder. I probably spend a fair bit of time looking for what other people are doing, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. You know, because if you're just going, for example, Bitmoji, this might sound simple, classroom templates, right? If you put templates in there, you can find a lot of people, right, who are actually sharing this stuff. And this is kind of how I started. Um, so, you know, but ultimately, whenever I find somebody who I think did something cool, I end up um, making a copy. They're giving it away for free. I'll take it. You know what I mean? And then I use it for myself. I'm obviously not selling anything. I'm not making any profit anywhere. I'm just, you know, this is, you can spend days in here, young people, or I'm used to talking to my students. Teachers, you can spend days in here. Whenever I see one, I just copy it and move on, right? And then if I ever have time later, then I'll dig in here. So hopefully this is valuable to you. And I'm going to put this into, the chat stream. And you are welcome to open this. This will be a Palliser viewer link. And so if you want to open this up and then put it into your drive so that you could see it again in the future, you're welcome to my repository of all kinds of stuff I find. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Might save you guys some work. I definitely use Slide. What are they called? Slide Mania. I look in Slide Mania a lot. They've got a lot of cool stuff in there. I'd recommend them. But there's another one that I use a lot, and it's escaping me off the top of my head right now. I forget now. There's another one out there, but I'm sure you'll run into it as soon as you start looking around. You start finding all kinds of interesting things. All right. So that's the whole part about start pages and Bitmoji classrooms that I wanted to cover. It's all of what I do, and you could, once you start playing that stuff, you'll find all kinds of rabbit holes to spend time in. But once you create it, you're not reinventing the wheel. That was the biggest thing that I found I hated doing, and this is my solution to not having to do that. Any questions before I jump on to the next thing? Good stuff? All right, awesome. All right, the next thing that I wanted to show you is, my HyperDoc outlines. And ultimately, I think for the most part, I've kind of taught you everything I do already. Notice the first big thing there is, organizing your Google Drive. It's kind of a big deal, right? You really have to put folders within folders so that you can organize and find your stuff. But then ultimately, you want to have the links to folders and to your assignments and documents and PDFs and videos and whatever you have in there. You want to organize that stuff into some kind of an outline, which I've kind of showed you. That's the second part of that. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to click actually. And then tables, fonts, and shading. I really do that mostly for the purposes of, and maybe this time I'll show you guys my teacher version of this. Notice when it comes up, I really need something to tell me, make sure, because they look the same, right? One's just a copy of the other. My name is teacher for this document, so that I won't get confused personally about which one I'm in. I always just check right there to know I'm in the teacher version. And usually whenever I make a change, I'm making a change to 2 documents, not to 1, right? I want to put it on my teacher version because I'm looking at the teacher version all the time, not so much the student version. So, and notice in my teacher version, I will have, all the links to, answer keys. I just use the word key, right? If you can, I don't know, that's too small. You guys can't see that. Somebody tell me, say, Henry, make that larger so you can see, right? So I link into all my answer keys in here. So, when I'm teaching my lesson and forget the answer key. I know exactly where to get it really fast and pull it up, and off I go, and I'm not reinventing the wheel. Okay. And so this is my teacher version actually doesn't look as good. This is like when I started, you're literally kind of looking at, I used to, when I started this, I was just like making it red. Kids, you must do this, do this. And I realized, you know, shortly after starting, I'm like, no, doesn't, I don't like that anymore. And then very quickly, I'll go to my last one I created. You can probably very quickly see the difference. This is my unit 5, my last unit in science. So all of a sudden, visually, it got a little bit better, a little bit better anyway. And point is, I'm trying to say here is you definitely want to create repetition, in my opinion, where kids will become very familiar with your system. Okay, and so look, notice how I now have, you know, instructional videos is always, I use the font I like for that. And this is just a font, not a picture. Um, and then I link in all the videos that are interesting there related to that content. G slides, kids learn very quickly that means the Google slide, right? So, and it's always the publish to the web. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I didn't tell you guys about this. You guys know about publish to the web, right? Did I explain that yet? I don't think so. Nobody's impressed by that. So you don't even know what I'm talking about. This is the publish to the web version. I can't believe I didn't put that in my outline here. So let's go back to our Google slide practice one. Okay. The magic happens. You don't ever want to share this with kids as a Google slide. No. You don't want them messing with your stuff. You don't want them to be able to make copies, anything like that. So here's the magic. File, publish to the web. I publish almost everything to the web. Whenever it comes to the kids, it's published to the web. And so you click on this little guy. All right. And notice at the very bottom here, it says publish content and settings. And notice it says restrict access to the following. It'll always be just Palliser, right? But I restrict access to all my stuff so that it stays within Palliser. By the way, you guys are in Palliser, and so it's published to the web to you guys. You guys could see all of this if you were able to search for it. I don't even know if you could find it. Maybe you can, but it is restricted within our Palliser domain. So I don't want the world grabbing my stuff. Anyway, so from there, you just hit publish. And the beauty of that is once it's published, you get a web link. And, you know, I copy that link, okay? And then I just go into a new browser window, paste it. And now this is the publish to the web version that loads way faster, right? It loads way faster. Kids can't mess with it. It looks like a beautiful web page. And now you have your Bitmoji classroom. And then me, I just bookmark this. I would hit this little star, right? Hopefully this is something you guys know how to do. Add bookmark and then put it into a location that makes sense to you. But I would bookmark it. I have one tab here called for teacher. This is all my teacher links and outlines that have answer keys. And my student link here, these are all the student versions of that. And my Google Classroom, you know, published to the web version. So that if ever I need to grab it, I teach my kids to bookmark this. And that's why it ends up looking the way it does. This is the published to the web page, right? I can't believe I didn't talk about that. I should have put that in my outline. Anyway, so that's a big deal. By the way, you can do the same thing with Google Docs. I do it sometimes, but I wish I could do it for my outlines. The reason I don't do that for the outlines, like you could go file, publish to the web with these two, but the publish to the web version of these, and maybe this is just geekiness and you're like, stop talking, Henry. And I will real quick, okay, is the publish to the web version of a Google Doc. is not as pretty. Notice it doesn't organize it as well. I don't like this version. I would prefer to share it this way. That way they're looking at it as a website, but obviously you can tell that does not look as good as this, right? And in a Google Doc, it organizes it better, which is why I share it as a Google Doc. Okay. And of course, sadly, they could actually make a copy of it, but kids, I don't think kids do that. They don't care that much. If a teacher caught this and they could make a copy of it, they would make a copy in a second. I know they would. If you teach Science 7, you'd make a copy of this right now, right? And so that said, you might want to give some thought if you're really liking this, if you want to give some thought to this going, would you share this with a colleague, right? If somebody says, hey, Henry, would you share your outlines? I got to say, I don't think I would just share this unless I was like done teaching. I would probably say, hey, on the side, if you really want something like this, let's talk. Let's go by, have a coffee, and let's go really talk about it, because this is hours and hours and hours and hours of work, and I don't just want to give it away, to be honest. Anyway, but that's just me. That said, I'm happy to teach you how to do it, and you can make your own version of this. But a couple of things you should think about: what link do I want? Right? If I'm sharing this, all that to say, if I shared this with a colleague, many of my links would not work for them because I have chosen the restricted link. Do you know what I mean? If it's for a student, so let's go into my Google Drive. Sorry, this is a little bit complicated to explain, but it's a really important thing to understand. And if you want me to repeat myself, I will. Just say, what are you talking about, Henry? So whenever I make a copy a link to anything, let's say my videos here, and I'm going to get a link for this when it finishes loading, I'll say share. Okay, what I'm talking about is which link am I using? And you'll have to give a little bit of background thought to this, because who am I giving this to? Am I giving this to a student? Am I giving this to a teacher? Will I ever share this with a colleague in the future? What do I want people to have access to? Okay, obviously everything will be accessible to you, but notice here on the bottom, when I'm getting this shareable link, right now it is restricted. Okay, and if I copy this link and I link that into any picture or text and I embed that link in there, if I use restricted, I could share the entire Google Doc. I could share this hyperdoc. I don't need this anymore. I mean this one. If I share my outline with students, and they have that link, they will not be able to open the link because I have restricted it. It's restricted to only me. So they can have the entire document, but there's some links they will not be able to go through if I've restricted them. If I share it with a teacher and they make a copy of this, if I use the link that's restricted, they will not be able to open that link. Are you guys with me? Okay. On the other hand, if I'm using the next one, right, which is, this is often the one I'm using for students, right, especially on the student outline, the Palliser, anyone in this group with this link can view. So this is my students, they're in Palliser. And so I'm often copying this link because when I share my outline with them, they will be able to get there by embedding this link in there. And I paste that link in here because they're within Palliser, they will be able to go there. Am I speaking English? Does this make sense? Okay, so you have to give some thought ahead of time about who is going to see this document, and I want to make sure that they can actually get where I want them to go. Okay, I hope I did a good job of explaining that. Okay, and so essentially that's what I'm doing, particularly my G slides, because notice I'm in my teacher version. I have two of them. I have the link for students And I've created the green. For me, green means this is my teacher only link, because again, I'm creating a teacher version of this and a student version of this. And whenever it's green, I'm going to delete it when I make a copy of it, because that's going to become my student version. Is this all making sense, or am I just babbling at this point? Please. I've given a lot of thought to this, and you live through this, but I use green because later on I'm going to delete that so that my students will not be able to get the answer key, right? So this is the finished version. I'm right now in 5.1 of minerals, and this is what the students will get eventually, right? So this is just the published to web PowerPoint that I have for them. This is what I use. They can look at this from home. It's simple. It doesn't have all the buttons around it. And this is the published to the web version of this topic that I'm teaching, right? Obviously, I had to create all these first, right? Before I ever did this, right? So that's the published to the web version, right? And then the one right below it is in green. It's the edit version. This is where I really made this from, right? This is the preview. I didn't wanted to really open it, but you guys are more familiar with this. I think most people who use Google are using. Oh, I don't know why that happened. All right, most people are using this, right? And often they're just sharing. If they're sharing it with kids, they're sharing it like this, and then kids could make a copy, but it certainly takes a lot longer to load when you're sharing it as or opening it as an actual Google slide presentation and then hitting present, right? I don't want kids to have to go through all of that. I just want it when they click on it, it opens and it works, right? So that's why I'm often giving kids the publish to the web version. But because I hate going into my Google Drive, I want the editable version available to me quickly, right? So I link that in there too. Does that make sense? And often I'm also linking in a folder. Notice my little folder word here. This is where in Google Drive all of this stuff is. I don't want to have to dig into my drive, so I just create a link to the folder that's in the drive. It saves me time if I need to go in there. And then notice this is the green. If it's green for me, that just tells me that's the stuff that gives me the editable ability. And if it's not, this is the student version. This is an assignment. It's a G form, means Google form. I'm sorry if I sound like I'm rambling. Please stop me, ask questions, right? This is a fill in the blank assignment that I had students create that is self-marking, right? And so the link goes directly to the assignment, right? And so they can just click on the link and start going, right? And because you guys are looking at my teacher version of this, I have also the link to the editable version of this, right? And so right away, if I want to make a change, I have the link right away available. I'm not looking into Google Drive to find this thing. Okay. All right. Everybody understand kind of the magic around the thinking of it? So I'm trying to save you time from having to do reversions of this, right? If you're creating your own. So then I could quickly make changes. Of course, if you're familiar with Google Forms, right away there's always a Google Sheet that goes with it. I end up opening that somewhere along the way, and then when you see the word responses, that actually takes you to the Google Sheet that's attached to it. So you can see how I'm just trying to save myself time, right? Links take me to things that I want. All right. So you kind of understand the guts of it at this point. And that's the logic around what I'm doing. In regards to these animated GIFs and videos and you name it, all the notes I've ever created for kids, I don't have kids copy notes. I have them. What a waste of time in this day and age, right? I actually give the kids who want this, I give it to them in a paper copy. Um, but I just link it right in here so they can easily find it. Another thing that I might do is have an assignment like this. where's a good example of it? No, I don't think it might not be linked in here. I think I did it with my topic 1. You end up, again, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm just, each time I'm changing things and adding it and making it better. And I think I've only made that change here in the student version. So like here's an assignment. I have a lot of these kind of assignments. My short answer questions like this, where I take Google Docs, and then this is an assignment. I would literally take this assignment and put it in Google Classroom so that they would have it. Google Classroom makes copies of it, and they will do their work on this document where I have all the questions set out for them ahead of time. I link in the video and the SLOs right into the assignment, and then they will fill it out this way. I get them to do screenshots. And I, of course, always attach a rubric for them to hopefully reflect about what's the quality of my work here. Sometimes I even have the kids go, okay, grab the other kids' work and I want you to do the rubric on their work. Give them some feedback on how well you think they did on their work. So I just always put in a rubric for that kind of thing. So this is what an assignment would be, and then when they're done, they have other links and places to go. For extra study, that sort of thing. So I do these kinds of assignments for them. Anyway, that's me rambling for about 30 minutes. You guys need a break? We're only really going here for another 25 minutes. So if this is inspiring you at all, what I suggest you do, I use tables, right? If I was to create one of these from scratch, what I would do is I would just go in here, create a Google Doc. I would create and share. And then first thing I would probably do is create the table. Is the first thing I always did because I wanted to organize and group my work. I tend to follow my textbook because it's a resource I have, right? And there's a lot of formative questions in there students could choose to do. And so I tend to follow the textbook, so then it's kind of overlapping. So, one of the first things I would do right off the bat is I would just go insert, table, and then just have one column. It's still loading here. Just make it as big as I can make it because I'm always going to be adding more, right? Something like this, right? And then 1 would be my title. Like I usually use numbers like 1.1, starting point, whatever the title is in your textbook. Interactions in ecosystems was my interactions in ecosystem was 1. I always kind of create familiar, like text that is repetitive, so that this would be 1.2, right? Maybe it's ecosystems. I don't know, whatever the next one is called, right? And I would usually, I like gray for some reason. It's less distracting. Do whatever you want to do. And I would just create a, kind of the guts of it, if you will, and set this up at the beginning so that I have all my units. I'd have my textbook beside me and I'd write them all up and fill them all in. And then in here, I'm putting in content and links and pictures and you name it. And I'm putting whatever I want so that eventually I build something like this. Okay. All right. And of course, so there's no magic here really. It's pretty straightforward. I try to embed links. Do I need to explain how to embed links into text? Is that something you guys want me to cover? And so that ends up creating, these outlines that you see here. I definitely go into the textbook and pull out things that relate to the learning to hopefully make it interesting. And I'm actually at the place now where I'm like, notice this is my student version of this. I always build a teacher version first and then make a copy. And then the student version, I just delete all the teacher stuff. But I'm also at the place where I'm like, okay, maybe this is too much for students, right? Because this is my student version, I'm actually now constantly debating, going, you know what, I don't think I'll do this, so maybe I'll just delete that and then reduce the verbiage for them, so they're only seeing what will really lead to what they want to read, right? Because sometimes it's too much information. You guys probably feel that even now, where you're like, there's a lot of words there, Henry. I'm not sure if I want them all there. And you're right. Maybe it is too busy. I'm definitely at that place. All right. So again, all my study guides go in here. That way nothing gets lost, right? All right. Uh, the only other thing, please jump in and ask questions if you have them, or maybe you guys are on overload. The only other things, I know I made this a 2-day thing because I know I literally have set you up for a year's worth of work, not 2 PD sessions, right? Like, I don't know, maybe you're not going to buy in as much as I have, and that's fine. But at least you understand what I'm doing. Because have done all that work, now I'm actually thinking a lot about choice boards and chunking content, meaning like, because I teach math, I'll probably start with a fraction unit in grade 7. Kids find fractions hard. I'm probably going to build choice boards, which will be published to the web versions, where each concept will be a choice. What's a good choice board example? Let's go to this first page here, slide 1. So I literally built this on a Google slide that is set up like a choice board, right? So here's my 6 choices, right? I'll probably build it where I'll put some text here under number 1 that might say something like, equivalent fractions would be 1. And then that would lead to a PowerPoint slide that teaches all about equivalent fractions, where it might have a video to watch, and then maybe an example of what to do. And so they can themselves learn how to do equivalent fractions, right? And then 2, by the way, these are linkable, right? That's the beauty of choice boards, right? You can go back, you have a go back button. This is just a template that I found on slidemedia.com. You could do the same, just copy their stuff and modify it. That's a lot of what I do, right? Just copy and modify. And so my first choice might be, equivalent fractions. And then the next thing might be reducing fractions, right? Learn all about that one. And then 3 would be, how I would add a basic fraction with the denominators the same, right? And they go to that slide and learn that piece. So now I'm building on that piece where I'm like, how do I chunk information for kids where I can make them independent? And like, in our school, we group students by learning styles, which means my independent students are the ones that are self-starters. And if I give them a choice board like this that teaches it to them, I could probably just say, go to the choice board and learn how to do that. And I bet you 20 minutes later, they'd have it all done and they'd know how to do it, right? Whereas my collaborative group are the types of students who really need a lot of teacher instruction. I might have a choice board and we would start with number 1 and we do it all together and I would teach it, right? So this is the next part of this journey that I am now starting to embark on, especially hard concepts. And I'll probably start with math, where I start chunking information into small pieces and build choice boards for them. And this is essentially a choice board that I've created for you guys here. Okay. So that's number 3. That's choice boards. I don't have many examples for you because this is just my new journey, but I'm opening your eyes to the idea that it's out there. So you're basically providing learning choices. I know online a lot of teachers have created choice boards so that as like a unit review study thing. Or when you're done doing my assignment, what do I go and do? Well, go do this extra activity choice board, those kinds of things. So they're very powerful, but really it's just a Google slide that they click on the links and they have choices of where to go, right? And then the other one here that I think is a big deal that I'm also exploring, of course, is self-marking Google Forms. I've created them as quizzes, tests, but questionnaires, but definitely this formative quizzes for student knowledge checking. I'm exploring that as well, because you can set up Google Class or Google Forms so that it'll right away give them the result. So if I create a test, they can do it and know how well they did right away. That would probably be formative for me. But they could do it over and over and over again. It's another way to study. I'm playing with that. Now that I've created all of this, I have more time to make new things rather than reinvent the wheel all the time, right? I'm really looking for ways to save time so that I'm creating better and more interesting things. I'm just babbling. I apologize. So of course, you can use it as student projects. And lastly, the other thing I think you guys should probably explore is Google Classroom rubrics. Do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say Google? Good. Some of you already know about it. I don't really want to show you today because I've told you a ton of this. I'm only introducing it because the next time I see you in the next PD day, if you guys want me to really dive into it, I will. But basically, you can, once you create one rubric in Google Classroom, you can save it to Google Drive. And then every time you do something like it, you can just import that same rubric, right? So you're not reinventing the wheel. Like, that's a big deal to me. I love not reinventing the wheel. So anyway, that's it. You know everything I know now. Really, you do. It's just a matter of putting the time in to build what you want, right? So long story short, that's it. The rest of the time is for you. Do whatever you want. Okay. The whole afternoon for the session is you can build whatever you want to build. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be available after 11:30 because I got to drive to Lacombe with my son. But I hope you found this valuable. I'm still going to be here for 15 minutes. I'll answer any questions you have, but I'll stop rambling. I apologize. Okay. I know that's a lot of information. Okay. That said, if you have questions, please ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to stick around here for 15 minutes and you can build and do whatever you want to do, right? Even the next PDA session that we do, I will literally just be here to show you whatever you want me to show you, but I'll just help you along the way. All right. Perhaps I will stop recording.